everyone. My name is Carley Marcelle, and this is Reimagined Together, where every week I typically go live with a wide array of speakers to discuss and have more profound conversations about what a thriving humanity future really means and the little steps that we can take today to bring about a better tomorrow. This week's guest is truly an inspirational woman and a fierce global leader, and her name is Rehmah Kasule. Rehmah was actually calling in from Uganda, so due to the time difference, we did pre-record. But if you want to connect with her or have questions, please do leave them in the comments below, where all of her links are also below this video. Rehmah is a gender and youth development expert, a social innovator, serial entrepreneur, and an author of several books. She is currently a senior fellow of the Harvard Advanced Leadership Initiative, a Let Girls Learn Global Ambassador, and winner of several international awards, including Fortune-Goldman Sachs Global Women Leaders Award. She is the founder of CEDA International, and her work was recognized by names such as President Barack Obama in 2010. And she was named one of Africa's most influential women in government and civil society in 2016. Rehmah strongly believes that education breaks intergenerational cycles of poverty, and she is committed to providing opportunities to change life trajectories, one girl at a time. In today's episode, we're talking about what it means to invest in hope and why it matters, and how we can do it both as individuals and as organizational leaders.
I strongly believe that the greatest injustice facing Uganda and other African countries is not lack of education or wars or diseases. The most profound challenge is the failure of the education system to empower young people as leaders to solve those challenges. And this is where we come in. The goal of my organization is to create a new generation of women leaders who are economically independent, socially responsible, and politically active. When you go to post-conflict areas, the schools are very far from where the girls live, and there's no infrastructure. So we looked at the quality of the education that they are receiving was really low, and we integrated life skills, we integrated entrepreneurship, so that it's not just academics. The way we work is, first of all, we go to communities and find out what are their needs, and we engage them to know, if we are to do this project, how are you going to sustain it beyond our intervention? And for us, that's so critical, because for everything that we do, we look at sustainability. Will it live beyond us? One of the challenges that we face is transforming personal beliefs. These are children who have grown up in post-conflict areas. They don't believe in themselves. They have no confidence. They don't see role models. They don't see any hope for the future. So breaking that barrier is so critical and very hard.
Since Rehmah's visit and talks to...
Before we get started in today's interview, can you please just give us a quick introduction to what projects you're working on right now, a little bit of where you've been, and what you really care about?
Where can I start? For me, I proudly say that I was born a village girl, but I refused to become a village woman in rural Uganda, deep in the village. And I just decided this is not a life for me. And I transformed my life from that village, from mere survival to success and significance, to become who I am today. And today, I'm really a leader. I'm passionate about girls' education. I'm passionate about gender empowerment and also the future of work. The future of work actually is my current work that I'm doing at Harvard. I'm doing a fellowship, the Advanced Leadership Initiative, and I'm looking at the future of work in Africa, because 75% of the population is under 30 years, and youth unemployment in some countries is as high as 46%. So I decided personally I can't be on the sidelines. I need to be an active citizen, really, to transform Africa and the future we want. And that's my focus in the next 10 years, the future of work in Africa.
Yeah, it's just so amazing and exciting. Um, I would love if we could just kind of start. What you do is so big, so big. So when did you first really realize the power of hope in your life, the power to transform your own personal journey, to take you on this big?
What can I say? For me, every day I live through hope. I live with hope. But at a young age, my father died when I was 8 years. And so from a young age, I saw the discrimination that happens, the gender discrimination, the religious discrimination that goes on. And I saw the hope my mother had. I remember she told us, never ask why. Always ask how. How are we going to go through this? What can we do? And seeing the way she transformed her life and our lives from being a stay-home mom. My mother dropped out of school at 16 years and she was married. And so when my father died, she had no money. She had never worked her whole life. But every day I saw how hopeful she was, getting up every day and saying, I didn't go to school. I must take my children to school. And that's the biggest gift I'm going to give them. And that hope really made us become who we are today. Because every day we knew there was a new tomorrow. There's a new tomorrow. There's a new day. We are going to make it. And we did somehow.
Wow. I mean, it just shows you how important it is to have hope modeled in your life as well, right? That it is contagious in that way.
Yeah, and that's so true. If you see role models and you have a lot of positive conversations with people, that's how you build hope.
And when did you first make the shift? So you had it in your personal life, but obviously the road that you've been on is big. When did you first feel the calling to go in this direction? And did you ever experience some fear? Were you scared of kind of taking on something that's so large?
It's interesting that you say that, but because for me, really, apart from my mother's story, what sparked hope for me is at growing up, I never had any books to read because we were really poor. And so growing up, I never read any books, and that affected my academics. And at 18 years, I read a book called Woman of Substance by Barbara Taylor Bradford. And I was reading about New York and Fifth Avenue, and that broadened my vision. It broadened my view about the world. I knew there was, I can't be confined from in the small community where I was born. There's a bigger world that I need to conquer. And so that realization made me dream bigger, also think about bigger ideas. But of course, you always have this fear inside you to say, am I too much? Growing up, I used to always ask why. I see now my daughters, what they're doing to me. That's what I did to my mother. I used to always ask. Seriously, in my culture, girls don't speak up. You have to keep quiet. You have no voice whatsoever. And I used to speak up. And so you could see my mother getting frustrated because I was speaking up. And so I always had this fear to say, am I being too much? Am I doing too much? But I'll tell you, Jim Rohn, one of the motivational speakers that I love, said that if your dream and your goal can't keep you awake at night, then it's not good enough. It's not big enough. And so from a young age, I decided, you know what, I'm going to take on big dreams and do big things. And at 26 years, I quit my job and started my own business because I realized that my dreams and my hopes were so big, they couldn't be confined in someone's office. But of course, that fear continues. Even today, I fear like to conquer bigger things. But once I have plans, I do a lot of scenario planning. I know people do it for businesses and things. I do it for my personal life to say, there's this scenario, second and third. what if this goes like that? Really, I do a lot of planning in order to make sure that everything comes together. And with that, sort of the dream, the fear recedes a bit. And once you have a big vision, once I have a big vision, the fear just goes. It just disappears.
And you start to see, I'm sure, I mean, I've watched some of the videos and we'll have them throughout this interview, but the impact of your work and how it's inspired so much change. I mean, what does that feel like for you when you take on these big things and you start to see it really impacting lives?
For me, I tell people that's what makes me wake up every day with a smile. For me, every day brings me an opportunity to transform another person's life. And I strongly believe in that. So every day I don't take it for granted. I know every day I have to pay for the free air that I breathe. And seeing the transformation and that paradigm shifts that happen in the girls that I empower makes me wake up with a smile because I know I'm transforming another life. I'll give you an example. One of the girls called Sandra Batakana, when I met Sandra in 2011, she was almost on the verge of dropping out of school to become another child marriage. She would have become a statistics, child marriage and girls getting pregnant at an early age. And when I told her about dreaming big, this is what I told them. I told them, when you dream, you achieve, and no dream is too big. And that went to her head, and she knew she had to transform from the little village where she was born. Today, Sandra got a scholarship, went to Duke University, studied medicine, did finance. Today, Sandra is in Bank of America in New York. Sandra's parents have gone to Canada. Her sisters, she's taken her sisters through school. And so for me, my purpose and my passion in life is to transform people's lives and change their trajectories, but most importantly, to break the intergenerational cycles of poverty that is going on in our communities. And Sandra is a true testimony that when you educate a girl, you break the intergenerational poverty in her home.
Beautiful. And that kind of brings us to this question of what it means to invest in hope. For you, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think all of us need to be investing in hope. It's interesting how we talk about investment and we just think about money and building and properties. But I think hope is one of the rare items that people don't think about. But without hope, we shall die. Without hope, you don't wake up with a smile because you don't believe there's a new day, there's a new dawn, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So really we need to invest in hope. First of all, for me, investing in hope starts with investing in people.
Yes.
Because people is one of the precious commodities we have, human capital development. But in investing in people, I'm breaking it to, minute details. Investing in people also starts from investing in supporting them to know who they are. Because I strongly believe that if you don't know who you are, you never know what you want in life. And you never get it. And you never be happy. And you never have hope. Because what are you hoping for if you don't even know who you are? So for me, one of the biggest investments, we need to turn hope into like a bank account where we need to deposit, positive attitudes, good narratives, good stories, positive words, dreams. We really need to invest in it more and more. But for me, it starts from supporting people to know who they are.
Absolutely.
Because once they know who they are, the rest of the things will come into place.
Yes. A lot of what I've noticed in some of the videos, your past interviews and some of the videos that you did as well, you talk a lot about that shift into empowerment and how so much of it is just our personal belief systems. It's changing those personal beliefs from disempowerment, I can't, there's no way to make change, this is what it is, into I can. It may not be easy, but that hope is what allows for that empowerment shift. But my question to you would be, looking at our world today, why do you think it's so common that our leaders and our systems tend to disempower, tend to not invest in hope, that there's some resistance? Where do you think that comes from? What has been your experience with overcoming it?
I think also I'll start with even demystifying the word leadership. What is leadership? I know too many people, they believe leadership is a position or a title. But for me, I believe leadership is about every individual, each one of us taking action. You identify something and taking action. And so leaders, I'll go back to the leaders don't invest in hope because they don't see how tangible it is. Because hope is something you can't touch. It's in the mindset, it's in the attitudes, it's in the actions, it's in those things you can't touch and say, this is hope, I have 10 kilos of it, or I have 10 pounds of it. So people can't quantify it. That's why probably many of them think, what, it can't happen. That's number one. But also, secondly, I think we've come to a world where there's a lot of polarization, there's a lot of anger.
Yeah.
The frequency is too negative, the energy around the world is too negative that people feel as if it's about me, being self-centered. It's about my country, it's about the US, it's about Africa. We silo things, we silo everything, we silo problems. And COVID-19 has shown us how interconnected we are. It's not about who brought the virus. It's about each one of us taking action. And it's about all of us having a systems thinking where we think about the world as a system instead of us saying, this is mine, this is yours. Because if think about it, if COVID doesn't go in the next 3 months, what hope are we giving to the people? Globally, really, it will be through words, through positive narratives, through good attitudes. And of course, we follow our leaders. We need to see them and their actions. They need to be congruent with what they say and what they do. And then everyone else will follow.
Absolutely. And that actually reminds me of the story that you told in the beginning with your first exposure to where you saw hope and how you brought that into your life because it was modeled in front of you.
It's about modeling, and the children model our character.
Definitely do, for the good and the not good. And so as we look at what it means, there's as exactly as you're talking about, right? Hope can be this intangible thing. And so many of us don't know, what that really looks like. And you mentioned invest in people. Investing in people is one way to invest in hope. But what other tactical ways, when it comes to, in a business context and an individual life, can we start to practicalize investing in hope?
Yeah, I know. And you brought it nicely also in the business world, because many times when we are talking about intangible subjects like hope, everyone thinks, oh, that's non-profit work or that's social development work. No, even our businesses, bottom line, if you have workers or employees who are not hopeful, you will not get what you want as a business. So really investing in the people, investing in their capabilities, and of course also giving them the space, building the ecosystem, which enables us to work together. More than ever in the world, we need diversity, but we also need inclusion. We need a sense of belonging. We need where we develop people to have a sense of agency, but also where they also have the courage and compassion to take action, not just in their lives or families, in their communities. We need to build shared values. And I'm not talking about the value system. Value system is completely different, because the value system of someone in the US is not the same in India, it's not the same in Uganda. But we have shared values. I know we talk always about the planet and the environment and the climate change. Imagine if we all came together and we have this whole shared value. Our shared value is the environment and the planet, and our shared value are the people. How do we invest together to make sure that we instill proper values, we instill hope, we do dialogue so that we understand each other? Today, in 2020, we shouldn't be talking about racial injustice.
No.
We shouldn't be talking about gender discrimination. We shouldn't be talking about youth having no employment if we all work together and build this hopeful world together. For me, I really want this to become a movement where we build a movement of people who are hopeful. Because if each one of us has hope, and it can vary depending on the person, but we need to all have hope, so that together, collectively, the hope will just burn through the world and we will make the changes that we want to see, But it starts from little things, and I emphasize this, the narratives we tell. And as you know, a thought become words, and it becomes actions, and actions become your attitude and becomes your habits and becomes who you are. So the thoughts we plant in people's minds, of course, I'm not going to go to the media, that's another story altogether, but of course the media has a big role to play. But I think we need to start from little steps that we can do to say, can we bring people to belong together, and how do we know each other?
Yes.
How do we support each other? How do we value and respect each other's values?
Absolutely. And what I think with 2020, with all of it's been a lot of, I'll call it darkness, but a lot of pain as we've gone through COVID and everything that's come from it. But the beauty of the entire world recognizing truly how connected this world is. And as you're speaking to, you are from Uganda, a voice for Uganda, for the continent of Africa, for the development of Africa. And of course, a member of U.S. leadership and making those changes here. Sometimes the big picture of how there can be some resistance to this global perspective, this interdependence and the systems that you're talking about, because again, it seems so big. It's like, it's hard for us to think about our actions here in Chicago, when I go to the grocery store, impact so many other people and so many other lives in the economic development of other countries. So, when we look at leadership today and the fact that these conversations do need to happen, exactly the shared value system, the recognition that we are all very connected, and denying it is not doing anyone any favors. What movements are you seeing, or have you seen any progress in this way, to where these sorts of dialogues are starting to happen? I would just be interested, are there some examples of where you've seen these more global systematic dialogues happening from a heart-led place, not just like, oh, my economy is attached to yours and how can I...
I think for me, personally, I find a reason in hope in every situation. And even with whatever is going on, the polarization in the world and, the injustices, I'm still hopeful. And let me tell you what Desmond Tutu said. Desmond Tutu is in South Africa, a great African leader. He said, hope is being able to see that there's light despite all the darkness. And for me, every day when I wake up, that's what I tell my girls, to say, you may be in this rural village in Uganda, but at the end of the day, there's light. And these are the role models. These are the people you've seen in your community, but others. But also one of for me, the guiding values and quotes I love very well comes from Roosevelt, what's her name? Eleanor Roosevelt, where she said that the future belongs to those that believe in the power of their dreams. Yeah. And really, I have a dream for the world. I see hope and I see movements starting more than ever. And this is very interesting. When people started talking about eating vegan food and vegetarian and global warming, it used to be really people who were in their 60s and 70s, where people thought, oh, you're mature, you have nothing to do, you're going into all those. Today, you see young people who are really, aware. There's a lot of global awareness of what's going on. You see someone in US knowing what's going on in Uganda. You see someone in Uganda who is aware about what is going on in the world. So really, there are little things that are shifting, really going back to the shared value, whether it's global warming or climate change, where especially youth, I'm hopeful about that because our future belongs in the hands of the youth. And I see them rallying on certain things. Human trafficking, a lot of young people are saying no to it, to say, you know what, all these are people and this is humanity. And we are also seeing the work I do in gender. We are also seeing a lot of men, saying gender is not a women's issue, it's a human rights issue. Let the men also come so that we know it's not just the women who are talking about gender. So there are little movements which are happening, but we really need to make this into a movement. We need more boots on the ground. We need more awareness. We need more dialogue, because it's interesting that how people know so little about a lot of these things. We take it for granted. Like if you're in a certain field, you think everyone knows about it. Just talk about race in the US. A lot of people didn't know what was going on. And I know for someone who is passionate about it, they may think, no, how come they didn't know? Yes, people are not aware. So we need to create, really, for me, I'm a writer and I believe in reading because I believe readers are leaders. So we need to write as many books as possible, simple books that children can read and read about positive stories. Not only history of what went wrong, but the positive stories. People who are doing small acts of goodness. If we amplify those, that's where the movement will start. That's where we are going to galvanize efforts that are going to transform this whole conversation about hope. Absolutely. But I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. For me, every day is hope.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think while there's a long ways to go, we are seeing a lot of progress, and the internet and how connected we are, even though our media has a long ways to go, just the fact that we are more aware of each other than we ever have been before. We can organize much faster. There is, it's happening slowly. It's happening, but it's still happening. And I think we're going to see a huge acceleration in the next few years, especially post-COVID. So when you talk about this sharing the stories of hope. So this is a topic that comes up very often in how we do our businesses and how we are as leaders and the things that we write. That there is a responsibility in the things that we create, and that's part of the Matutina and putting together this idea of consciously creating, because it's very easy to put out a story that's on everything that's going wrong, and to bring awareness to all the things that are falling apart. And it's important if we're looking at it in order to shift out of it. But right now, a lot of the media and a lot of what we're used to is this negativity, this obsession with the negativity, the shocking, because it's what gets the click. It's like that's what people are most likely to click. And so, I love that you speak to the responsibility of leaders in what they write to just make sure that you're shifting the narrative in the right direction towards hope, towards empowerment. You can tell the same story with the same information, but give it a direction that that can inspire people to more action. I think that that's so important, and something that I hope we'll see. I hope we'll see more of. So, I mean, as we go into this, I feel like you've spoken a lot to this reimagined what's possible if we all really did make this shift into hope.
Mhm.
I hope that all of our imaginations can go with that and really see that we're capable of some incredible things when we make this shift. When it does come to those small actions, so the stories that we write, that sort of thing, as individuals, let's start with individuals. A small step as an individual is I step into my own self-leadership and my own investing in hope in my life. What's a small step that I can take today?
Really, I'll still go back to knowing who you are.
Mhm.
So, really, as an individual, if you know who you are and you set your own values, not what the values, not what the community says or what you expect you to have, but your own values and principles. For me, I call them non-negotiables. They're those things I don't negotiate about, you know, my culture, my religion, who I am as a woman. I don't negotiate about those. So for me, that's where self-leadership begins from. And if you can't manage your actions as an individual, then you can't manage actions of your neighbors. If you don't love yourself enough, you won't love anyone else. If you tell yourself negative stories, you're going to criticize other people.
Yeah.
So everything starts with you. And Gandhi said it very well. He said, change begins with you. Everything starts with you. When Mahatma Gandhi said that about change, it was so many years ago, but it still stands. Change begins with you. Before you criticize others, before you give others, have your plate full enough so that you have enough love. And even in the planes, we are told, put on your mask first before you put on others. But it starts from those little things. And I'll talk about, I'm a mother, and I can't forget what we do as mothers or parents to disempower children. At a young age, we tell them negative things like, you're so naughty, you're so this, and that is ingrained in their brains. But imagine if we tell our children positive stories, affirmations every day, you affirm them. We are building them. Then we affirm our sisters. We affirm our workers. We affirm the people we meet. Before we know it, each one of us will be affirming their friends. And so once we use words to empower other people, we shall shift the needle.
Absolutely.
Words are so effective when we use them right.
Yeah.
So really, it starts from the mind, then it becomes words. So the words we need to tell needs to be so positive to create hope, to build bridges, not to disentangle the society, to bridge people so that we see that we can coexist, so that we can have social inclusion for everyone. But it starts from the individual. One person at a time, we are going to change this world. One person at a time. And that's how movements are built. One person at a time. Then it becomes a community issue. Then it's a community. Then it's a country. Then it's a continent. And then the world will change. But it's just one person to take action. And that's where leadership starts from.
Beautiful. Yes. And I do want, while it does all come from the individual, as systems leaders. So if we look at the small steps that business and systems leaders can take today, who have done, hopefully, start with yourself. Start with yourself, make sure that things are good there. And, but then what are some of the strategies that we can look at it from a systems perspective as far as what investing in hope looks like? We talked about investing in your people. let's talk about it. You know what? Actually, can I add a little bit to that question?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we can see it a little bit more clearly in our own countries or in our own businesses if we just say invest in your people. But I'm really interested in your perspective, especially when it comes to the international community. So the international systems. How can we invest in hope when I'm over here and you're over there? How are we? How can we invest in hope together, or how can business leaders help to make those shifts?
Still, two things. It's systems thinking and also bridging leadership. What I mean by bridging leadership, we need to know, like, there's this whole thing about youth being the leaders of tomorrow. I say we are making a mistake. Youth are leaders of today. Because if we want to grow a forest, we need to plant the trees today in order to have a forest in 10 years. So really, we need to build the systems, we need to build the institutions, but we also need to build courageous leaders, fierce leaders. We need to build communities of people who question their leaders,
Yes.
who make them accountable for their systems, who make them accountable for their actions. I think we can't talk about hope as this whole thing, which is, it's not abstract, it's real. It's real. And as countries, even if you're in the US and you're talking about Africa, apart from the images you see and read about, going back to the stories we tell, really having global awareness, reading about other countries. I'll give you one of the examples we tell children when we talk about books, the books we publish and write. We say a book should have two main objectives. It should have a mirror where this young person looks in the book and see their story in the book, you know. And they need to also have a window where they read about other countries and read about opportunities and what's going on in other parts of the world. Because unless we know what is going on elsewhere, there's no way we are going to respect what is going on. There's no way we are going to sympathize and say, hey, children in Africa, like my part of the world, they are not in school now because they have no access to internet. It may not be your reality, but the fact that you are aware is a good first step. I know many people thrive in ignorance where they're like, I don't know. I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you're saying. But that awareness really is going to be the difference between people who lead in this century and the people who have led in the centuries before. Being aware of what is going on in other parts of the world. Not just your country, not just your community, not just your family, not just your, knowing everything about other people in the world really will be a first step.
Absolutely. So just, awareness that the rest of the world exists and that impact, it makes me think again, what I hope we've learned from COVID. We came from the last 100 years, especially, has been certain economies, certain countries that are thriving more so than others. And or not really, whatever. I could debate that actually, if we determine what thriving really means. But let's just say economically, doing better than other countries. And as we realize that actually, it really can't, it's not sustainable. It can't exist that way anymore. That if all economies are doing well, we can't have one that's doing better, significantly better than others. It starts to, like with COVID, we have to, there's this too much connectedness between all countries and all communities in this world. We have to rise together. It can't be something that's one over another. That mindset has to shift. And I don't.
Yeah, I know what you are saying, And in business and in offices, they always tell us not to say, I did this, but we did that. That whole shift from I to we, from them and us to we together, collective actions, collective deliberation, collective dialogue. It's about being together and breaking the silos, breaking the biases we have. Some of them are unconscious biases we have against other people, other cultures, and other countries. And also, like I said, breaking the ignorance that people have, so that you don't just dismiss to say the other is not my country, so I don't care. So really, we need to build more global citizens.
Yes.
I'll call them, where, yes, your passport may be United States of America, but you're a global citizen in the sense that you can easily go in Uganda and work there and fit in and do the work as you're supposed to do, not where you jet in thinking, I've come to save them. That's a savior mentality. I've come to save them in Africa. Where you come in knowing that these are equal.
Yeah.
They're your equals. You're not doing them a favor. That awareness, I'll go back to the global awareness. We need to be aware of each other. And of course, dialogue and dialogue and dialogue. Communication is really critical. We need to start speaking more. We need to start dialoguing and speaking more to each other rather than speaking to them. We need to speak together.
Absolutely. Great. Great. Well, Rehmah, thank you so much for joining the show today. I really appreciate your time and the incredible work that you do. It is so inspiring, and hopefully it spreads hope all over the world, and hopefully empowers the better side of all of us as leaders for ourselves and within the larger global community. So thank you for the work that you do.
No, thank you so much. My passion goes back to the children. We need to empower them, to show them the way, to build a better future than we've had, because our children, really, the hope belongs to our children, and we really need to empower them. And for me, going back to that, I empower them through reading, and because readers are leaders, and we need to develop more leaders, so we need more young people to read. And that's my work, really. I write about hope and write about women, and I amplify voices of other women, because I know that when I walk alone, I'll go fast, but when I take others, we shall go very far. So I can't walk alone. I need to pull other women with me, and that's what I do.
Absolutely. Actually, and before, I'm going to add one more thing as you bring up women and empowering women on this journey. I think it is something important that we speak to before closing. How do you find that women lead differently? Why do you think, obviously we want to be equal because it's, in principle, seems to be a good thing, the right thing to do. But what changes when we empower our women? What do women bring to the table that absolutely cannot be oppressed any longer?
No, so for me, it's interesting that traits women have, the men also have them, but the way women use their traits, compassion, courage, awareness, togetherness, supporting each other, service, really the way women lead. When women, positive changes happen. Because why? Because the women don't leave anyone behind. Women bring the whole village. They want to feel like, I can't do it alone. I need to bring someone else. That compassion and working together really is taking women as the greatest leaders. So, because when we empower a woman, she empowers 10 women in her community. And that's what women do. We invest back in our community. And actually, that's why even the saying goes that when you invest in a woman, you're investing in a whole community, because women don't lead as individuals. And I'll share with you what Maya Angelou said.
Yeah.
She said, I come as one, but behind me are 10,000 people. So when you see one woman behind her, other 10,000 women, And that's how we make movements. That's how women lead. They know that the night sky is never lit by one bright star. The night sky is lit by the billions of stars that come together. That's what makes women great leaders, because they light the sky together.
Mhm. So, yes, when women are empowered, to do that. So,
Yes.
well, I'm very hopeful for the world that you speak to. I think is happening right now as we speak, and it's accelerating because of the work that women like you do. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
yes, thank you. Okay, so can you tell us real quickly about a book that you just released called The Sheroes of COVID?
Yes. This is a book I released. It's called The Sheroes of COVID-19, Women Leading in the Crisis. And what we've done really, I co-authored it with Priya Sheha. And what we did, and it was published by Pangaea Publishers. And really the book is their stories of 23 women from around the world, women who have used their courage, compassion to serve their community during the COVID-19 crisis. Women from the Prime Minister of New Zealand, who is using her power and influence to really protect her community, to a woman, Patricia, in Malawi, who is protecting children and women from domestic violence. So really our stories come from the top two acts of good kindness. We also have Aisha Ahmed. She's a student at Harvard. She was a student at Harvard last year. And with her sister, Sophia, they collected goggles and sunglasses and masks from their fellow students and distributed them to healthcare workers. Those are acts of goodness. They are acts, small acts that are going to change our world. That's where mindset starts. That's where movements start, from little acts of kindness. And these women have shown us that collectively as women, we can do so much. And for us, we call them our she-heroes. They are the she-heroes. They are the women we look up to.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And that link, is it available on your website?
Yes, it's available on our website, and the book is available on Amazon for buying. And it's also available for people who have online to read online.
Right. All right. Thank you so much, Rehmah. Thank you for joining in for this week's program. And if you would like to learn more about me or the Machutin Experience Network, all of those links are below this video. Look forward to seeing you next week, Thursday, live at 11 a.m.